Thank you all for joining us here tonight for another edition of Q&A with Agri Spray. With me tonight is, as always, Ryan Watson, our product knowledge specialist, to help you guys answer some of your questions. And you all are in for a real treat. We have Dr. Steve Lee here tonight, agreed to impart his vast amount of knowledge with the spray drone industry, the work he's done, and just some general conversation. Get to know him better, so you guys can know what he's all about. We've worked with Steve for, well, it's been a while now, a couple of years, I guess. Is that right, Steve?
Mm.
Yeah. And so we've learned a lot, together, and he's helped us, educate the market. And so that is what we are all about is education here at AgriSpray, and Steve aligns with us very well on that. And so this is your opportunity to listen to Steve on kind of what work he's done and ask questions as well. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and pop those in the Q&A as they pop up in your head. You can pop them in the chat as well. Ryan will answer what he can, and then we'll answer questions there at the end. Okay, let's get started. So Steve, I guess to start with, you just kind of want to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do.
Oh, sure. Well, thanks for the invite, Taylor. I'm glad to be here tonight to hang out with you guys. I know it's a busy time of the year, so I appreciate everyone's time to check in at 7 o'clock at night. I'm sure you have other more interesting things to do than hearing to this boring guy put you to sleep, after an hour. So, Steve Lee, I'm the extension professor in Auburn University. I do lots of field work since when I was in college. So this year probably is about the 19th year I've been doing field research, field trials, since I was undergrad student worker when I was in college. Have done a lot of different trials, different type of works. My training and background is mainly in chemical evaluation, centered on pesticide, particularly herbicides. And over the years, I have done multiple projects related to pesticide application and slowly evolved into application technology, evaluating different type of equipment for efficacy, deposition, drift, and this type of stuff. So I've been working on drones since before the pandemic. So it's been close to 4 years now. Considering how fast these spray drones evolve, this is not, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but actually we have gone through a lot, in the last 4 years. So happy to share what we learned from our trials, our research with you all. Hope we'll have a great discussion tonight with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Something I've always been curious of is, it seems like, you're more passionate about this technology than we are sometimes, Steve, which is awesome. To find somebody, with your background, with your knowledge and your work ethic, and who loves this stuff as much as we do. Why drones? I mean, I know you said, part of what you do is you test application technology, but you've taken a deep dive into drones, into spray drones.
Well, I said this thing before. As a research scientist, or at least I was trained as a research scientist, and now I work in extension, we're all waiting for the next silver bullet. There's never going to be a real silver bullet to answer all your questions, but in your career, in a long time, this could be 30, 40 years, hopefully we can experience at least several silver bullets. For example, when Monsanto was about to release the dicamba technology, we know it's going to be revolutionary trait for weed control. But at the same time, before they release it, we knew the drift would be a big issue as well. So it's an opportunity and challenges at the same time. So we don't get a lot of those big technology I wouldn't call it silver bullet, but it's just like a major improvement compared to what we have. We don't get a lot during a career. And then once I get a little sick and tired of spraying backpack plot, using a backpack sprayer spraying plots, and I saw the emergence of all the ag drones, remote sensing and spraying and everything. And I had a feeling this probably will be the next big technology slash silver bullet, or maybe the closest thing to silver bullet for the next 10 years or so. And we can only have a 30, maybe 35-year career. You don't get a lot of chance to wait for these type of major improvement. So I decided that it's my time to seize the opportunity and see what we can do. And then after first year, it worked out really well because it checked so many boxes for us down here. We have small field, odd shape, plenty of trees, obstacles, telephones. And then the other thing down here in the deep south is if it doesn't rain, we're like a Sahara desert dry. But if it rains, it could rain 2 weeks nonstop, a lot of wet periods as well. So during the wet summer, we have a new tool to spray the weeds, the insects, the disease, to avoid a total crop failure. So that's a big selling point, and also at the same time, we have a very diverse um, ecosystem and also the cropping system as well. I can easily name 20 different crops growing down here. And it's very hard to find anything, not just a technology, but any product, any equipment, or whatever that you can use across this many crops or even non-crop situation. And the spray drone check this box as well, so it's a very versatile tool for us down here. So this was my thoughts. I just felt like this will be the next big thing emerging. Big thing doesn't necessarily mean good things. I would label dicamba or extend trade, as a big thing, but it doesn't always bring people joy. It depends on which side you're on. I did a plenty dicamba drift work, since 2016, and then we're always looking for big things to work on, in the research community. So
Oh,
this is
you
how
bet.
I got into this and still have a good passion, good amount of passion about it.
Well, you definitely opened Pandora's box, it seems like, on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope that will trigger the folks in the call to ask tough questions, and I'll refer most of the questions to you.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's why I have you on here. It's the one night I get to defer to the other expert here.
Uh, well, I'll try. I'll try. But though, I didn't say you can spray that Campbell with a drone, all right? Don't put this
Well,
to
that's
them.
what I heard, I think. Yeah, we're gonna edit this to make you say that, Steve.
Yeah, EPA will call me tomorrow, for whatever I said pretty quickly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what was that? And before we get into I know you got research to share and everything, but the origin story is fascinating to me, Steve. They always are. And your first drone that you got, that was what year, and how did you convince the university to go for it? And yeah, tell us about that first experience.
Well, before I bought my first drone, I have been paying attention to drone in general for a little while, probably around 2018, somewhere around the time frame when we were spraying dicamba, evaluating drift, volatility all day long. We sample air all the time back then, for volatility. I don't see a future doing that kind of stuff forever, because it's a big thing, but at the same time, everybody was working on it. So I was looking for emerging technology, the next big thing as well. So started to pay attention to the drone type of work around the time frame. Back then, I believe most of the spray drone models was T16, T20, T16, T20, something like that, over those years. And just very early, 5 liter, 10-liter drone. Look at a field, have been to a field day, and it felt like they were pretty much just fancy toys back then. I say I like the concept, but it just it still has a little way to go back then to be applicable to the farm. And then still was paying attention to it. And the first drone I got was actually the mapping drone. So that was a fairly common move for folks in academia, to start with multispectral. Well, if you have higher budget, you can buy a hyperspectral, which is more expensive. Multispectral only measure five very small bands. Hyperspectral measure continuous band from 400 up to 2000 nanometer wavelengths. So it's way bigger wavelengths, and you can scan at any section within that range. So we were able to write grants. We got both multispectral and hyperspectral. I can use multispectral fairly well, but hyperspectral is just way above my head. That data set and everything was really difficult. That was a fancy toy to make our hardcore research guys happy, I guess. So I started to play with the multispectrals. I actually learned a lot from it. One thing that I saw multiple times in the field, and if you guys have M3M, Mavic 3 multispectral, you can do this in the coming season as a complimentary service to your grower just to make them happy. Fly their field and see how their planter works. I've seen a lot of funny stuff happening. Sometimes one pass had a higher density of crop than the pass coming back. And sometimes these planters don't put out the same rate across the field because probably the down pushing force or the hilly terrain. And also I've seen a brand new planter being used for the first time, leaving a hiccup, basically a gap for a few feet, like every 30, 40, 50 feet, it leaves a gap. You know, I've seen a lot of interesting planter issues over the fields I flew over. And also, when you have damages, like hog, pig, or deer, or hail damage, it's a pretty useful tool. We also kind of figure out some other usages as well. But the experience with multispectral only lasted for one summer, and then I quickly realized it's not going to be possible to build a business based on multispectral. I learned this reason pretty quickly myself after one summer. So starting from the end of 2020, my bad, 2020 season was my first multispectral season. I did a bunch of flights. I was still running flights back in 2021, but I started to pay more attention to the spraying side because I heard that DJI was going to release the T30 and the specs came out. I look at the specs and I thought this thing should be right on the border of being classified as a farming tool and a farming toy. It's kind of sitting on the borderline. So I decided to give a shot, roll my dice and see how it goes. So I bought a T30, I started to play with it, and then as soon as I got it, the first 2 months was terrible, no parameters, no nothing. You search on the internet, you get nothing. So I know a lot of people all over the place. I had to text some of my colleagues in Asia, in China. They give me some parameters. So at least I wasn't flying 20 feet high, spraying 2 GPA, and stretch it to 27 feet, doing all those crazy things because there was nothing to go by. And after trying this for about 2 months, we started to hit the target better and start to show really good efficacy, in those examples. And then it was like a one successful example follow the other, and just this thing just be very more than sustainable. It's pretty much just like a volcano eruption. So we were able to do a lot of the impossible jobs in the past because, for example, we completely conquer this morning glory problem. Down here we have morning glory on our corn. In Midwest, you have the other fantastic weed called bird cucumber. It does the same thing, just wrapping around the vines. So desiccation, that's what we figure out. And then they work out really well on that. And also It killed the weeds well. We sprayed the fungicide. They did a pretty good job on those, cutting defoliation. It was very comparable to the airplanes and the ground rigs. We spray pond and we spray other stuff too. So create a lot of interest and just carry on that momentum into 2023 and this 2022 and 2023 as well. So it was a lot of work, but I guess we had a good journey and a good luck with the technology. And now it seems like there are just too many things that people can do with it. And then there's no way we can evaluate all of them, you know. That's just my feeling. There needs to be a lot of research or R&D in general to be done. But still, I started to make a lot of conference presentations in professional conference. What I'm doing is I'm not only wanting to train the operators. I've done a bunch of operator training. Taylor, you have participated some of that in the past as well. And then I started to make professional presentations in those research or scientific conference, however you call it. So the goal is not to show off what I do. The main goal is to increase the awareness, just like my operator training, because I want to increase the awareness of this new technology among other researchers so they can justify their money, their time, their budget, funding, whatever, and start to work on it because we need more people to work on the R&D side, and generate more data and recommendations. It can't just be me, I can only do so much. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
kind
I
of
think you've
focus for
definitely
now.
lit a fire under, some of these other, universities' butts,
Well,
because
that's good. That's good.
yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
We've worked with several different universities, and uh, I think things are moving a lot faster in this industry than maybe what we're used to with typical technology. Taking 10 years to get to market or so, whereas this straight to the market and then into the university.
Yeah.
So there's definitely I mean, I think there's catch up work to do. I think you alluded to that for sure.
Oh, exactly, exactly. Market always leads the research and development. R&D side always trail behind. This is nothing new.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, sure thing. So how does Auburn justify just you just basically only doing spray drones all the time, it seems like, because you do so much information. It's either you're really good at creating this, valuable research, or like you're just the drone guy. Like it's awesome to have that resource, but is this something that, Auburn's like really backing you on?
Um, well, I have to appreciate my boss or boss's boss, the administrators above me for their support, at least I mean, they give me almost as much as freedom as I like to work on it. And they see the value of the new technology. They may not be able to provide me a lot of financial support. Unfortunately, that's just sad thing across the board among all the land grant university. Our budgets are slashed really hard since 15 years ago, but at least they're supportive and I can do a lot of things that I like to. I still have to cover some other extension responsibility, and I'm also the extension team leader for Auburn's agronomic crops team. So I have some administrative functions as well. Other than that, and I have to advise students. I have grad students, student interns, and all of those. So it's definitely busy. Sometimes more, or I should say, more work than I like, but has been a enjoyable journey with the drone type of work. I just find a lot of fulfillment compared to the projects that I used to do.
One, I think you can probably, just like what we do here, you can see your work and your education have a ripple effect
Yes.
into the ag community, when growers are implementing this technology and when individuals are using it to start businesses, largely influenced by the education work you've been doing, that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, yeah, you can see your impact, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I mean, so you're deep into the research on the on T40, and you've done a lot with T30, and you've done a lot with other drones now too. What what comes top of mind and some of the more impactful research that you've done, or things that you think people should know?
Um, yeah, that's a very broad question. I think the biggest selling point or the biggest finding from all the projects we have run so far, we probably have run it, you know, like over 100 trials, well above 100 trials over the last 2 years. We just kept busy all the times. So the biggest thing I learned about these drones is if you know what you're doing, you set up the parameters correctly, you choose the right environmental conditions, the results are very much comparable to any other type of application method. So far, we have not found any situation, well, I should say, except for spraying really, really thick tree canopies. Now, these canopies are just way too thick, talking about like big old citrus tree or really tall, really big pecan trees. If you deal with that type of canopy really, really thick, this may not be the tool for it. But other than that, we pretty much can spray any type of crops, whether this is row crop or specialty crops or vegetables with it, and still observe comparable efficacy, um, you know, with the drone. Now you have to probably change your parameters, change your spray volumes to accommodate different type of canopy. But um, I would say that's the biggest thing we learned about the technology. And also the second thing we learned, and we're still being amazed by this point, is the versatility of it. You just can do so many different things with it. It's almost like sky's the limit. You just have to imagine, what you can do with it.
Yeah, we learn new things all the time, and I know, you opened our eyes to the possibilities in nursery management,
Yes.
herbicide. I mean, who would have thought? It's
Manure herbicide. Yeah, that was a prime example. Those guys, you've been to those nurseries, they're still asking me questions. And then I had a meeting with one of the major manufacturer of nursery herbicide and nursery product last year because of label issue. Right now, the holdup is label, you
yeah,
know. And then I was able to convey the message to them, and they saw the data. They were all impressed, and they were asking, well, what should we do about our labels? This was their high-end management. And I said, I'm not looking for a brand new section of the drone labels, although we're working on it. I'm working with EPA, CropLife America, and the chemical registrar on the effort. But I told them, as long as you be a little vague on the label and don't say ground spreader only or ground vehicle only. You give us a little bit gray area to exist, we'll be all right. That's what we told.
yeah,
That's the win for us right now because most of those labels do not allow area application.
yeah. We've kind of lived in the gray area, it seems like, for the past 3 or 4 years with these drones. So
Yeah.
that's all we can expect right now.
Well, that's true for pretty much any new technology. You look at AI, you look at the Bitcoins, the cryptocurrencies. All these things start in the same path. Yeah.
That's
Eventually, the
right.
regulations will follow, but it's trailing behind for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit. So you obviously you've done a lot of different testing with a lot of different um, you know products and crops, and pushing the boundaries as far as labels and everything, and testing things that not everybody gets the opportunity to test, and seeing what works and what doesn't. So on the labeling side, on the EPA side, is the progress being made to change some labels? And what's kind of like, the biggest thing you think that needs to change?
Um, the the progress is there, but it's also a very slow process. And the reason why I say that is because EPA is so overwhelmed with so many things at the same time. If you pay attention to the news, I'm sure you have heard all the Endangered Species Act, herbicide strategy, all this kind of stuff. Because EPA has to meet court verdict. It's a mandate that they have to adopt new strategies by certain dates, and that date is in the near future. So they allocated a lot of resources, for this type of stuff. So as a consequence, even for like a core function of EPA Office of Pesticide Registration or pesticide program, like their core function of registering new product or reevaluate, re-register old active ingredients. These are taking a lot longer, as well. So they are also working on how to revolutionize this process, to make it go faster. So it's still gonna take years of effort, if not a decade away, before we can actually see the label dedicated for drone. And the other problem is if this process really takes such a long time, we're talking about 5 to 10 years down the road at the quickest. You all can imagine how fast drone will evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. It could be beyond imagination. And then whatever we come up today for the regulations may be obsolete, and just totally out of the favor by that time again. So regulatory agencies have the same issue or same challenge, just like everybody else. It's a new technology and it's evolving too fast. The regulations you made for today may or may not work 5 years down the road. Just looking at the big difference between T30 and T40. I know it's a major upgrade, but the biggest difference, if I have to name one, is the rotary atomizer versus the hydraulic flat fan nozzle. And then I can tell you from the regulatory perspective, whether you ask EPA, you ask academics, you ask chemical registrant or whoever, we know nothing, zero, about rotary atomizer. So how are you going to regulate it?
Yeah.
How does it drift differently compared to the flat fan nozzle? That's the most simple question. Just so
How do
many
you and
things
how do
that
you
you
put
can
standards on it too?
correct.
Because yeah, they're all
There's no
different.
standards. Yes. And every manufacturer's rotary atomizer could be different as well, you know. And then 5 years later, we may have something even bigger and better, we don't even know what it is. And that's gonna affect the regulatory agency or their decision as well. So it's a that's why I say they're making progress, but the challenges are there for sure. Some of the simple things that they can tackle, in my opinion, are they're still there. For drone operators, uh, for the drone labels, the big focus right now is the PPE, the worker protection. How do you reduce the exposure to the chemical? For example, you set up your base, you're flying your drone, you didn't watch the wind direction, and then the wind just, spray this last pass, wind directly blow everything to the trailer. Everybody's covered with chemical. So that's sort of like the main focus these days for the chemical registrar and the regulatory agency, as a high priority. I'm sure down the road they'll focusing on other stuff as well. And the other thing I'm kind of curious about, because this affect what I do as well, is the lowest gallon per acre or the lowest spray volume allowed by the label. A lot of time we're able to spray the chemical using 2 or 3 GPA, but label says 5 or label says 10. We can't go below that, you know. So technically, we're just running illegal operations. But we know the efficacy side, it will do good job. And then somebody just have to test the residue component. So there is a debate here. This is why all the labels in the US cut off at a 2 GPA, because anything below 2 GPA, nobody has done the residue work. For example, a residue sprayed, a droplet sprayed at 1 GPA versus 10 GPA, and 1 GPA droplet carries 10 times more AI. That will affect how long the chemical dissipate on that leaves and how much absorption you get into the leaf. As you can imagine, it's a way higher concentration. And we know chemicals or pesticide get into the plant by gradient change or concentration change. So supposedly more chemical get into the plant. It's going to affect how long the chemical will persist on the soil surface and everything, how much it gets into the food and stuff like that. So this is why we can't go below 2 GPA, because the current residue tolerance model do not support anything below 2, just because nobody measured it, many, many years ago. But it takes a lot of money to redo those residue tolerance tests. So there's just all kind of obstacle there. I mean, if you're interested in this type of things, in the conference next week, we'll have a regulatory session, and you will hear a bunch of the work going into the background that most of the operator do not get a chance to see. So this is why I think regulatory compliance is important, not just the compliance to the FAA rule, but also I like to have the operators to know why certain things or certain labels are written in this way, so EPA, and APCO, or I think the Crop Life America, they will all talk about the current progress with the future label, the spray drone drift testing, this type of stuff, because we don't know how spray drone drift compared to the airplane or the ground sprayer very well at this point. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going behind the scene.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
You've done some drift trials and some swath width testing. Um, and I assume a lot of that was just kind of for your reference and for operator reference, so that you can help train operators better and educate operators better. Is have you shared that with anybody within the EPA or looking at new labels?
They're welcome to have it, but for EPA to consider, you have to follow the GLP, the good lab practice. GLP is basically a field research standard, that is designed for regulatory agencies. For academics, people like us, when we run research, we need to follow the rules as well, but we have our own internal system. This is why we have the peer review system. The peers will review your work and said, and make a decision if this is acceptable or not. So if the study is not done according to the GLP, typically it don't get considered by the regulatory agency. This is why they formed, the multi-billion-dollar global chemical companies formed this spray drone or global spray drone task force. So somebody actually asked me what this task force is, or do they sell drones or something like that? I said, no, they don't sell drones. So the task, it has a horrible long name, so don't make me repeat that name. I gotta pull out my email to tell you the name. Or the acronym goes this long, the acronym. So the task force only has one mission, which is generating data to support regulatory agencies. So folks in Canada, folks in European Union, folks elsewhere in the world will be able to use the technology. And also, in the US, we may have better label, and the future drone section as well. So that's the goal of the task force. They also do a lot of field testing, field trials. with GLP standard as well. So I know they have done at least six, maybe eight large scale drift study across the world. Two are in North America, some are in Brazil, some are elsewhere. If you go to the drone conference next week, they're going to talk about it. You might can even see some of the drift curve they built.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's
That's
very
one thing I'm looking forward to for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that'll be Tuesday morning. And also these presentations will be recorded as well for the registered participants.
And I think most everybody on the call here knows about the conference. But Steve, do you want to just describe kind of for those who don't know about the conference yet? Um, yeah, how they can what the conference is and how they can get access to it?
Oh, sure, sure. This is a end user focused conference. So we call it Spray Drone End User Conference. So as you can tell from the name, we want to serve the end users. We want to serve the operators. They are the main clients for this event. So we're not gonna go through a lot of data, go into really deep into the theory, or like horizontal flux model, that kind of stuff, and go through calculation. So there will be a regulatory agency giving talks, FAA, EPA, CropLife America, whether or not regulatory agency, but the State Department of Ag, they have their own association called APCO. APCO's Emerging Technology Committee chair, Dwight Seal from North Carolina State Department Ag. He is also the pesticide regulator in NC, North Carolina State, NC State. Will be here giving talks to show the state perspective on spray drones. Because that's also important. I'm sure all of y'all have heard of the Mississippi story, since the start of 2023, they basically put a soft ban on spray drone. And I heard that they just released a statement or about to release the ban, allow people to fly. So State Department of Ag has to support your operation before you can use it, So you get to hear those perspectives along with the chemical companies, spray drone task force. And also there will be research talks, there will be equipment manufacturer talks, software talks. Taylor will speak in the conference, focusing on drone service and maintenance, which is a big thing happening in summer. I'm sure you all have to fix a drone at some point, for whatever reason. So that's important. And also we'll have field demos to show different drone models, different usages, and a panel discussion. The panel discussion is why people need to attend a conference in person, because you get to hear from the experienced operators discussing about field operation, how do you manage crew, or how do you do spraying, how do you increase your efficiency? And, that's the field operation discussion. We also have one afternoon focus on business operation. For example, how do you manage liability? How do you manage labor force? How do you do advertising? Where do you find jobs? And other stuff, focusing on the business side. And then one afternoon, we will have panels from regulatory agencies and the chemical companies to answer questions related to compliance, label, and that kind of stuff. For example, one question from me to ask FAA and the EPA and the State Department of Ag is something of your interest, because many operators want to see this happen. When can we legally fly above 55-pound drones in the evening?
Mhm.
There are major hurdles with it. And this is why I said, if you're a part-time guy, you just want to spray a little bit of crop and make money, you probably don't even really care to know this much. But if you are really into this and you want to run, multiple drones, have a full-time spraying crew and really do big, you probably need to know why, or at least pay attention to the regulatory uh, decisions or some of the consideration behind all these regulations. FAA has its own reason why they don't want to why it doesn't want to see people spray at night. But EPA, the chemical companies, the registrar, and the State Department of Ag also have their reasons why they don't like to spray at night as well. So as a commercial operator, professional doing this, you need to know all those reasons behind those thoughts or those bans or regulations, whatever it is. So that's going to be the panel session focusing on regulatory compliance and the current or future rules. There might be some discussion there about future labels as well. But that conference happening next week. First session starts 1 p.m. Central Time on next Monday, and then it will run all the way through Thursday. For the regulatory agency, those talk happen on Tuesday. Wednesday, we focus on the operator session. Experienced drone operator will give talks on Wednesday. Thursday morning is the field day, and then the afternoon is blocked. All the afternoons are blocked for panel discussion. I I unfortunately cannot take any in-person registration now, but if you register remote, you will be able to join the Zoom live, listen to the live talks, and ask questions as well. And then you also will have the presentation recordings if you register remote. So it is a platform for the whole ecosystem. I made this clear. We welcome anyone from any background, anywhere, running any type of machine, representing any companies to join. The conference itself is non-biased. We don't endorse any company, any manufacturer, or any service provider. So we just want to host a non-biased conference as a platform to benefit the whole ecosystem, particularly the end users and operators. So that's the sole purpose why we're hosting it. And it is a lot of work. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
So
I don't envy
hopefully
you,
y'all
Steve.
enjoy it.
There's been a lot of behind the scenes work, I'm sure, on this one.
It is a lot. And also I have to appreciate all my session chairs, my speakers, and my sponsors. Taylor wears two hats here. He's a speaker, he's also the sponsor. So just because people like him, supporting the event so we can make it happen. Otherwise, if it's just me, you're never gonna have this type of event. And just it has to be a team effort.
Yeah, agreed. I think for everybody on right now, live, Ryan did drop in the chat the link to that conference so you can get on there and register for um, that virtual event. Yep.
That's
And if
got
you're
dates and
interested
times
in
on it too.
what's that, Ryan?
That's got dates and times on it as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
And yeah, lots and lots of good discussion. So if you got to pick a day to go, I don't know how you're going to decide which day.
Yeah.
Well, our talk is we're focused really on a lot of T40s going out there this second season. So that's what our talk is about. How to get your machines ready for a coming season, what to prepare for at the second year with the 40. So
Yeah.
yeah, really looking forward to when and Steve, when you started, we started. This was a niche application. I'm sure some people thought that you were crazy. You said borderline toy and tool, and yeah, I think the industry has grown to a
Yes.
point where it has proven more so tool, less
Yes.
so toy, and so it's great to see these things happening now. Conferences for us, for our kind of people, um, and folks like you putting those on. So we really appreciate the legwork that you've done and the hard work you put in for this.
Yeah. Thank you. Hope everyone enjoys it and also find it useful. And then we want to grow the industry because there are lots of challenges and the risk for this new industry, at the same time. We're only about 2 to 3 really bad accidents away from being, you know, by the regulatory agency. So we want to mitigate those risk factor and just be able to grow the industry, grow the market share, grow the jobs. And then that means more sales and better equipment for everyone. So everybody's all on the same boat. That's what I'm trying to say. But there are a few bad actors jumping on the boat, trying to tip it off. So
Yeah, I know.
it's sad, but at least we want to promote all the positive stuff, the legal operation, the regulatory requirement, and also the best practice for you to achieve efficacy and also high efficiency, also be able to maintain your ROI so you can grow your business as well. This is why there's a strong focus on business operation at the same.
Smart, smart.
Yeah. Everything all goes together. None of these parts can survive by itself. So this is
Yeah,
why I think that using ecosystem to describe it is more appropriate.
that's good. Steve, I've got about 50 more questions for you. We could talk all
Oh
night.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know if we have that kind of time. And I mean, we haven't lost anybody yet. So, you're the boring old guy isn't quite so boring, Steve.
Well, I haven't even started to show my data yet.
I
So
know. Well, that is something I think we would do a disservice to everybody on tonight if you couldn't show your data. So if you have data to show, I think that would be fantastic, to showcase here. I know you share a lot of this stuff online, but it'd be great to show it now.
yeah, I prepared a few slides. I'll be honest with you. Let me do this. I know this is usually the way to go. Um,
If it doesn't work, it's Ryan's fault. He's our tech
Hey, I don't have all the fancy powers you do right now, boss.
guy.
All right. How does it look?
Yeah,
Looks
I
good on
got
our
it.
side.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm using dual screen, so I have to unplug the other screen so it will show full screen. Um, yeah, I made a few slides today in a hurry just because I was just swamped with all the logistics and last minute SOS today about the conference. But still, as a Taylor's webinar, so I have to show some good stuff at the end. So the last question is gonna be really interesting because I get this question all the time, and there are a few people just ask me this year. I wrote a guy a really long email and he just got blown away. So I thought it might be a little easier to find a better way to describe how complicated the answer really is. And also have a simple way to answer it as well. So I want to show two versions of the answer. These are just some of my thoughts about 2024 spring season as of this afternoon. And I probably could think of more, if I do this presentation after the meeting, but I think I got most of the key talking points here. So the first one,
I was just gonna say, Steve,
yeah,
that's great. Uh, it's remarkable how similar I don't know if we think alike or what, but how similar your list is to our list whenever we do training. We just had training today, and it's
oh,
remarkable
okay.
how similar the topics are on here
Hey,
with our
you,
list.
you never know. Maybe you got a trainee down there already took a picture, sent it to me, so I can see your talking points. Um, but yeah, great minds think alike, and just these are just important things that we need to hammer. It's not a comprehensive list, I know, but at least all these things are important. The first one is a old sour subject. Nothing new. But if we keep seeing stuff like this, I don't know what's gonna happen in future. The last thing we need is FAA team up with the state and other feds or federal department and start to restrict sales and require background check, just like when before you buy a gun, and you have to go through background check on this. Um, but we need to comply with regulatory agencies' rules and regulations for a reason because they control our fate. I hate to say this, but it just happen all the time. People flying with no nothing. Just heard the incidents from last year. I think it's from Iowa. A T-40 operator almost hit a spray helicopter. FAA is investigating it. It's turned out to be a pretty famous incident. A lot of people know about it. Operator doesn't have nothing, not even part of 107 license. So yeah, we need to quench these type of illegal activities.
Well, especially
Second
now
thing,
that it's much easier now on the FAA side,
yeah.
FAA is working with the industry, is working with us. So it's, we need to make sure that we educate and we make sure that, if anybody out there is servicing and selling drones, you have to do your due diligence to make sure that your operators understand what is required and have resources to make that happen.
Exactly, exactly. We're done with the Wild West period of the industry. Those people selling the drones, telling farmers that you're a private applicator, you don't need no license. Those people need to go. We're past that stage. So that's the number one thing I want to mention. Particularly if the commercial operators advertising their service are not fully legal, not fully insured, that's an even bigger problem for me, to swallow. Yeah, those people not only putting themselves at risk, they're putting their clients at risk as well. The farmer hiring those illegal commercial operators will be held liable if something happens. And then drift. Drift is nothing new. And then you can hear the wind when I shot the video. If you haven't seen how spray drone drift, now you have. It doesn't look pretty. Anything below the drone is not gonna get any coverage. All right. So you just got a lot of stuff going with the wind. And it's not like the rotary atomizer are better than flying fan in that regard. They still drift a lot, all right, because the droplet size is small. And then this is another case. I got a slide from a drone friend, and obviously it's not something good. So he said, you don't need to give me credit. I don't need any credit for this. So he was the one spraying glyphosate in this field on the right for burn down. Drifted onto neighbor's wheat. That's what he said. Now it wasn't a lot of wind, 5 miles per hour according to him, but the wind was strictly directly blowing into the neighbor's field. So they assessed the damage area was like 3.8 acres. Although I have a hard time to tell this is a wheat field, all I see are a bunch of broadleaf weeds,
Yeah,
in
that's what I was
clump
gonna say. It does
outline.
not look like wheat, Steve.
No, it don't look like a weed, but this is still a good picture, show you how far drift can move, into the field. So just something to remind us if the wind is blowing to a wrong direction, it's better to wait until later in that day or the next day to come back because it's just not worthy to push, and then you realize you're gonna have to pay for the loss yourself, at the end. So that's another reminder. And then looking at some of our field example, I showed this in the training before, but I don't know if the participant remember or not. It's been a while. We sprayed 2 5-acre blocks on winter cover crop. These are rye, clover, and a vetch, almost about 2 feet thick. It's really, really thick. All right. So when you spray really thick canopy, and it is a desiccant, defoliants, or herbicide, you're gonna see green streaks. That's almost inevitable. All right, you see the green streaks. So a lot of people say, oh, green streak is caused because you stretch your swath width too wide. I don't disagree with that, but that's not the only answer, for what happened. All right, so in this case, we just got too thick of canopy to deal with. It's even difficult for the ground rig to kill with 15 GPA, not mentioning your little 2 GPA. You just ran out of droplets when it gets to the bottom of the canopy. And then, but that's not the main talking point. The talking point is when you spray in windy condition, 10 mile per hour wind, this bottom block definitely drift worse than this top block. See the top block, you still got a little drift, but it's more manageable. Down here, this one drift a lot worse. So if you guys have to take a guess what happened here, both blocks were sprayed with T40 using the same herbicide, same rates, sprayed about 5 minutes between each other. Wind speed was about 9-10 mile per hour on average. One block, this top block, had way less injury distance compared to the lower block. So why? And the reason why is because this is NDVI. You can see the drift here as well. This is RGB on the left, NDVI on the right. So what happened here is the bottom block was flowing at 15 feet. The top block was flowing at 10 feet. So lower your height certainly help reduce the drift. And also lower block used the 200 micron on your T40 setting. Top block used the 300 micron. None of these things are really difficult to do, but if you're an experienced operator, you have to spray with a little bit of wind, and the drift is a concern because drift not only pisses off your neighbor, but drift is also your money flying away from you. Drift is the chemical that you pay for from the co-op. They're flying away from you. So to reduce drift and increase the deposition, these are the simple things to do. Again, the last talking point is you can fight against wind, but you're never gonna win. Wind will eventually win, because when it's 15, 20, 30, 40 mile per hour, you're just gonna have to quit at some point. So wind eventually will win. It's just about how much you are able to lose, or you can afford to lose to mitigate the wind effect, because it's either going to cost you time or it's going to cost you money. Both. There are practice you can use to reduce the wind effect, but it'll slow you down or cost you more money. I'll elaborate, what I mean, later. All right, the other thing to show is how T30 compared to T40 compared to airplane. Many of y'all have seen this data. I've shown it multiple times, across the country, even show this to the Europeans, the Brazilians, EPA, and all sorts of people. You're looking at the spray dye deposition on the corn yearly, spread vegetative tassel stage. The higher, the better, because I'm spraying dye as my fungicide, as a chemical. T30, T40 airplane, all spray 2 GPA, using maximum efficiency setting. Not much a difference. Not much a difference. So I hate to say this, but if you're going after as many acres as you can in a day, it don't make a lot of difference between airplane and the drone. So to do a better quality job, it's either gonna cost you time or it's gonna cost you money. You have to pick one, or you can pick both, So the reason why I say that is if you look at this side, in the Georgia side, these are 11 feet tall corn, under irrigation, 250 bushel yield corn. All the treatments were sprayed with 2 GPA. The only one, the second bar, here was sprayed with T40 with 3 GPA. And then you can see the wind speed for each treatment. So they are all windy, anywhere between 7 to 13 miles per hour. All right. T40, 2 GPA with just water and spray dye was the base treatment. This first bar is the base treatment. You can see the difference between T40 2 GPA versus T40 3 GPA. This much of dye deposition was increased because of 3 GPA. All right, you spend more time in that field, you're supposed to do a high quality job. But, I guess you spend effort on it. If you don't want to slow your operation down, but you want to increase job quality, you got to pay those DRAs, It's hard to tell which DRA is the best, but that group in general is helpful. 1% by volume. Say you mix 100 gallons, put 1 gallon of DRA in that tank, and that 1 gallon is good for 100-gallon mix. Don't go over 1%. And then the 100 gallons cover 50 acres. So 1 gallon of DRA cover 50 acres. You can quote from your dealer and see, if you can make that work. It's not going to be a lot of money per acre, 50 cents, maybe $1 at the most. But the increase of deposition is real. Now you may want to ask, what happened here? All the bars look the same in Columbia side in Alabama. This is because if you look at the wind speed, when we spray this baseline T40 treatment at 2 GPA, we happen to cause no wind, 0 wind. Sometimes it still happens. It's a windy day, but it's not always windy. Wind has never been consistent in terms of speed and direction. And then this is about as best as you can do because there was no wind. T40 scored about 40 nanogram per square centimeter on year leaf. And then you look at all the other treatment, T40 spray with 3 GPA and the ones with the DRA, they were all the same compared to T40 spray under no wind. But look at the wind speed of those treatment, 9, 12, 14, 5, and 5. Even at a 14 mile per hour, the deposition is the same as compared to 2 GPA with no wind. This experimental DRA was sprayed at 2 GPA as well. Wow, that means something, So I'm not saying spraying 14 mile per hour is a good practice, but DRA will pull your money back down from the wind, and make it stay in that field. Otherwise, you're benefiting neighbor's corn. That's all I'm saying, So now you get a point why I said why it's either cost you time or it's going to cost you money. Good quality job doesn't happen spontaneously, It's not going to be happening for no reason. You have to fight for it. Seeing is believing. I've been doing extension work long enough. Those top 2 water sensitive paper, hold on. Those 2 top water sensitive paper were sprayed with water spray dye only. This bottom 2 was sprayed with this experimental DRA. You don't need to have a fancy scanner, just eyeball it. You can see more hits from the DRA on year leaf. All these were placed on year leaf. So the other thing I want to mention is the mapping, field mapping. Now, when you go to the field, you can start to drop your boundaries all around and assume you're good. Most of the time you will be fine. You will be fine. As long as you pay due diligence, you watch for the telephone line obstacles and stuff like that. But once in a while, this thing is gonna get you. It's gonna get you, particularly the guy wire, sometimes the tree branches. And then it's gonna turn into this. I crashed a drone. This was my work. I was talking to 30, 40 young farmers and totally forgot about the guy wire. I flew in this field multiple times. So Taylor, this was the same field where we had that big field day, like 100 people come up, when T40 just got released, I flew straight into the guy wire. They were asking questions. I didn't even have the time to think. I just mapped the whole area and the drone flies straight into the guy wire. So yeah, so that's the important
that's always a good show. I bet they're going to come back for more, Steve. You gotta up it next time.
That's
Crash
right.
2 of them together.
Now I tell all the drone dealers, hey, you do a drone demo in front of people, that's nothing cool. How about crash your drone in front of people?
Yeah,
Do that. Now we'll come back and talking again.
I've done that before, actually.
Oh, that's good. You belong to that elite class,
That's right.
So that's how I crashed. I crashed in style, though,
You did. That's good.
Everything was fine. Broke 6 propellers and 2 spray arms. That was it.
Yeah.
But if this happened in the field, you thought you save a little bit of time by not mapping, but it's going to cost you all the time you save back when you have to fix this, and probably lose money during that couple peak days, peak fungicide days. You lose a lot of money. So think about mapping. I have more and more commercial operators told me they started to map the fields during the winter time, or they pay one guy doing nothing but mapping the field before the big crew gets to the field. And it increased the efficacy, not efficacy, increased the efficiency significantly. So now when I do my trainings, I said, increase efficiency, pay attention to your trailer. Your trailer cannot slow you down. Your trailer has to have a good design. And also map the field before you get to the field. This will make your operation go a lot smoother. Otherwise, you're gonna have tree branches stopping you all the time, if you're spraying down here. I mean, none of these are difficult to fix, but they all take time. That's the problem, time is money. And also, if you crash often enough, all these little parts, the costs that still add up. That's another factor. And so it's always a trade-off. But glad that whenever I crash my drone or my kids crash a drone, Peter and kid can always shift the parts pretty quickly. We get it next day, so we never get slowed down much. But yeah, the cost does add up. That part is always going to be true. So your dealer is important too. If your dealer is busy spraying his own crop, don't get back, to take care of the customer until the weekend or whatever, you're gonna be left there hanging. So that's bad. All right, compatibility. This is nothing fancy, you are looking at Provosor fungicide, which is really good fungicide from BASF mixed with Mastodon Max, a commonly used insecticide. 2 GPA mix. The bottle on the left is just two chemical mixed together at 2 GPA without a foliar fertilizer. The right one had this ENC Flex foliar fertilizer. Foliar fertilizer creates you a lot of headache. And you know how to grow your headache even bigger? Put a DRA in there. They don't like each other at the end. So that's how you grow your problem, in the field. We all want to put 5, 10 different things in the same tank, typical farmer mentality. But stuff that works at 15 GPA, 10 GPA may not be compatible at 2, so keep that in mind. And also, if you really, really want to put a foliar fertilizer in the tank, you need to spend money to buy the compatibility agent. So put a compatibility agent first in the water, along with a defoamer, and then put a fertilizer in first before the chemical. If you don't use compatibility agent, to thin the tank mix, and you put a fertilizer last, that's what happened here. We put the fertilizer last. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. All right, we don't have vegetation in the tanks, so it is what it is. And then it's getting into burn down season. Some of the rookies will think we've been spraying Roundup and 2,4-D for decades. I'm gonna do it here, with a drone. So that's how it looks like a 2 GPA right there. Just be prepared to dig the thing up by hand. If you can still salvage your flow meter and a pump, that's good. If they get clogged up solid, you may have to take them off and soak them up. Hopefully they're still usable, I'm sure you heard about this, Taylor,
Oh yeah. Was that Enlist and glyphosate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Potassium salt and Enlist is the worst. The IPA glyphosate is a little better, but not by too much, at the 2 GPA. So pay attention to this. A lot of burn down is going to happen after a month or so.
Yeah, we've had guys ruin entire totes because they didn't do a jar test and mixed up 200 gallons. And
yeah,
that's bad.
And when you waste the 200 gallons, you waste 100 acres of chemicals. You're not only lose the time, you have to swallow the chemical costs because the farmer not gonna buy you another 100 acres to play with. It's just a bad day turned out. And then drone trailer, I mentioned this briefly. It comes with all different designs. There's no right or wrong. Maybe one day we should have a drone or spray trailer contest. Whoever has the best trailer, we have to form a judging committee or something. Whoever wins the top should win a prize or something like that. But this thing is just, it is amazing. All kinds of design. So
That's going to turn into a shouting match, Steve. I don't think anybody's gonna say their trailer's worse than the next guy's trailer.
oh, yeah. That's why I throw judging committee off the bus.
Yeah, you have to have a
They have a
judging
tough
committee for
job.
sure.
Yeah. They have the tough job to make a decision and rate every single participant. But that's the talking about. Now we get into the most interesting thing: how wide you can spray. So I thought this is a Agri spray webinar, so Taylor probably wouldn't mind for me to use one page just as a demo, to show what it is. So Taylor paid a bunch of pattern testing. This is from the SAFE program. I think they're under NAAA. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are legit people running string testing just as the as airplane. So after they test the T40, you can see the pattern. You can see racetrack and back and forth pattern. Racetrack is not possible with a drone. Racetrack is only applicable to tractors and airplanes. This means you spray the first pass of the one side of the field first, and then you fly all the way to the other side of the field and spray that first pass, and then come back down, turn around, spray the second pass on the field, on the second pass of the left side of the field, come back again, spray the second pass on the right side of the field. So for tractor and airplanes, you can do racetrack. For drones, we can only do back and forth. We can only do back and forth. So this one is the only one applicable to what we do. So this is racetrack and back and forth. Just look at this, all right? So typically, we say below 25% coefficient variation is acceptable. In this case, these guys are even more strict. They take probably 20, I think.
They told me 15% is what they, anything below 15% is what they recommend.
The bar is getting higher and higher. The manual published by ESABE 40 years ago says 25%. A lot of countries in the world still use 25% CV, still use this. So, that's a 34 feet effective swath. In this case, let's just say 20, that's a 32 feet swath, And then 15, it will be somewhere around 28 to 29. So that's the results from the string test, they spray the same fluorescence dye as I use in a corn project. You just saw the data a few slides ago. That was the same dye that they use here, fluorescence dyes. This is why they can scan the string really quickly with the machine. All right, so this is what string test shows, 32 feet, something like that.
Well, this test here, Steve, not to interrupt, sorry, but this test here, I just looked up on our data. That's test number 3. That was actually done with a fine droplet size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we tested 28 different settings, different heights, speed, droplet sizes, tank volumes, nozzle types, DRA, no DRA, stuff like that. And yes, this is full speed, 10 feet high, with us not ultra fine, but fine droplet size.
Okay. Fine is about, fine is close to 200, maybe a little smaller. Yeah,
150 is what it was.
Yeah, a little smaller than 200. All right, so that's good. I'm just using this as a talking point here.
Yeah,
So
you bet. Sure.
32 feet. If you've been to my training, I show a lot of people the burn down work I did. That was before I saw any of these data. I basically, based on our burn down results, my recommendation based on what I saw was about between 30 to 32. So when I saw these strain test data from Taylor, I was like, well, that might be a lucky coincidence, so I made a right guess. I was guessing, how wide it could be. We set it to be 33 and it was still all right. So this is an interesting part that I'm going to show, I said that we get this horrible morning glory problem, it's wrapping around the line, just like your bird cucumber. Take a look at this video on the left, you're going to be impressed. I sprayed one pass in this part of the field, one pass with, so I'm sorry, I can't remember, I used T40 or T20P. But T40 and T20P has the same spraying system. Swath widths are pretty similar. It could be a T20P, but I want to say it's T40, So I started from the side I didn't spray. I slowly walk into that one pass. I sprayed a herbicide. This is the herbicide I sprayed. All right, so pay attention. This is where I didn't spray. It's full of weeds. Typical southern weeds, small flower morning glory. That's terrible. This is the hardest to kill type of morning glory among all species. Lots of grasses. We have a ton of grasses down here. And that's a tea weed down there. That's hard to kill as well. Now I move into this one pass I sprayed. See the morning glory are completely desiccated. And the grass on the ground is all dead as well, along with all the other broadleaf species. You can hear how crispy everything was walking across it. I don't know if you guys hear the sound or not, but is the sound working for this video?
I don't know if we could hear it, Steve.
Okay, all right, and then never mind. It's a crispy.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it's
look,
dead. All right, cool.
yes, dead. Looking at the second video, you know why I said it's a crispy. You know, by looking at how I break out these wines. That's got to be dry and crispy for you to do it. You know, I can send you this original video. You can listen to the sound. So there's a difference between dry kill and wet kill. You use auxins, you use Roundup to kill these weeds. The wine will still be wet. And then when you combine the corn, the head is still going to drag everything down. So you create your own lodging problem. You know, we don't want that. We want a dry kill. We want dry kill. So this is my formula. If you want to try this on bird cucumber, I think the desiccation effect can still be pretty real as well, you know, because I don't want to spray Promoxone at a 2 GPA. That thing's nasty. So AIM is a lot safer, you know, as a burn herbicide, carfentrazone. And then I want to share another thing. Remember I said I only sprayed one pass. So I want to share this. All right, how does this show on your end?
Got it.
Okay. This is Pix 4D. Why is that? Oh no. Sorry, one more time.
No worries.
Open it back up one more time.
Yeah.
Steve, I got a question for you real quick.
Okay.
Some of the guys in chat, as you were going through that burn down, they were asking what your gallons per acre was on that. Was that 2 you were talking about?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
They were asking what your gallons per acre was on
2.
that burn down you just did. Some guys in
Yeah.
chat was.
2. We tested 3 as well. I didn't see much of a difference. So that'll make you happy, you know, or make these guys happy. It was 2 GPA.
Sweet. Appreciate it.
And then let me share this again. I hope it works. All right, is it working?
Looks a lot better now.
Okay, all right. So you are looking at this field I just sprayed. All right. So what I'm looking here. All right, this is NDVI taken from Mavic 3 multispectral, you know. So I get a I'm not sure if it's a donation, you know, for the testing unit, you know. It's from Taylor. So I've been using this thing to death, you know. Hopefully it'll still last me another season, you know. But Taylor sponsor a lot of the equipment to support our program, you know. So we appreciate that as always. And then we flew this field. This is NDVI. Green indicates lush, red color on the NDVI map indicates lush green. So you can see those are trees. Those are just tree around. So this lush green. This is a highway. This is a highway 87. So purple and the blue indicates dead material, whether this is dirt or pavement or whatever, you know. So blue means dead. Red means lush green. That's how scale works. You can see the scale from here. That's how the scale works in our testing. And then I told you I fly one pass. I flew one pass and I flew by hand. It's not straight, you know. Start from here. From here. There's a field road down here. This is a field road. I was following the field road. Spray, 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 spray. You can see the zigzag. It's not very straight. And then, you know, because I got more weeds over there. So I just made a quirky pattern over there, just in case you wonder, you know, what it is. So the video that you saw a minute ago, the first video from the unsprayed side versus spray side was taken right around this area. I started from here and slowly walk into the blue area. So that's how I did. So a lot of people ask, how wide can you really spray? All right, so this is my funky application, maybe not a really good example, but the good thing about these precision maps is you can measure the distance. I'm using Pix40 Fields here. This by far is my favorite software. If you want to use it, by all means, I'm not their salesman, so whether you buy or not, that's not my business either, but I do tell you I like it. So I measure the distance of how wide I sprayed, distance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I measure the distance, and also I spray a lot of passes over there. I'll explain what I did here a minute later, but this is a pass sprayed by the variable rate. So I was doing variable rate as well. I spray the variable rate first, and then I play with this one pass along the road. So this was the variable rate spray going this direction, and then that's how wide it sprayed on the variable rate application. So I measure 7 spots. And then I'm gonna show you, the width of these applications. All right. So distance 1, this bar right here, 40 feet. Distance 2, 31 feet. Distance 3, this bar, 36 feet. Distance 4, 39 feet. Distance 5, the one close to the highway, 35.9 feet. Distance 6, 42.8 feet. And distance 7, 40.879 feet. It's pretty wide. I'm just saying, it's pretty wide.
This was with the 20p or the 40, or you don't remember?
I have to check. I got to go back to my Agri platform to find out what I use. I'll provide you an answer probably tomorrow, just to say
Right,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, we spray too many trials, man. I can't remember everything on top of my head, Yeah, and I'm getting old anyway. I may not remember my name next year, so. But I measure 7 spots, so I guess that's representative enough. And this is
Yeah.
just a new flight. I wasn't flying super fast. We know how wide you can spray is a indirect ratio of your speed. The faster you fly, the wider you push the droplets out. This was maybe 20 feet at the most, because I fly manual, I can't fly too fast, So that gives you the answer of how wide we can spray in one version, which is probably easier to understand version. And then I'll tell you what happened here. So I mapped the field 2 weeks before this multispectral flight. I mapped the field. And then most of the morning glory and the weeds were over in these sections. All right. So I made a variable rate of spot spraying prescription, and I made a T20P or T40, just spray those hot spots. And guess what? I came back 2 weeks later after the application, and then that's probably 18 days after I mapped the field in the first place. Within those 18 days, the rest of the field, I mean, the weeds in the rest of the field caught up completely. So this is why you see a lot of like the eraser scrubbing, color or signs over here on this side of the field don't make a lot of sense. So something we learned from here is, in this case, rest of the field's got plenty weeds coming up. It's a way better call just to spray the whole field, because the whole field spray will be that color, which means they're all pretty dead, So don't do the variable rate on this one. It don't make any sense, because the weeds are coming back. All right, do we have a question about this one before I switch back? Ryan, nobody asked?
Not on that direct one. Someone actually asked earlier. Let me see real fast.
Okay.
I find it again.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all right. Maybe half of them already fall asleep anyway. And then I'll finish this slide, and then we can do the Q&A.
That's a good
But
idea.
to give you the other version of the answer, what will affect your swath width? This is the tough one, or the ugly answer. The answer is it depends. Your swath width is always a variable, and there are so many things will affect your swath width at the same time. And that's not the only bad answer, or that's not the end of the bad answer. The second part of that bad answer is, this come from my small brain. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 potential factors can all interact with each other. They can affect your swath width by itself. It also interacts with other things, at the same time. Height is going to interact with speed or interact with chemical mix if you run the statistics model. We can analyze the interaction effect of fixed effects. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm just saying it's quite complicated. It's almost impossible to evaluate this question at a full scale, just because there's so many factors affecting swath width at the same time. And that's the beauty of spray drone and why EPA don't know how to regulate them, because it's complicated and there's not much data at the same time. So, but I hope you appreciate this one, and that's the one I showed on Pix4D fields. I use the hottest chemical, and then I use a good droplet size, about 280 to 300 micron. I pick a no wind or very little wind day, and you saw that line. It wasn't very straight. That was because I was flying manual, but it didn't drift nowhere. It didn't drift to either side of the road, So, all right, that's the QR code for the conference. I think Ryan already shared the link, so it won't matter. I usually talk a lot. Today is not an exception either. I'm sorry for speaking too much.
We
Not even
expected
apologize.
nothing less, Steve.
Exactly.
I know. You got me talking, so I'll make your money worth. So
That's what Taylor's job is, to get everybody else talking, because he talks a lot as well. We all know that.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah.
I talked for about 6 hours straight today, Steve. So I was grateful for the break tonight.
Well, that's good. That's good. You got a buddy to talk, so you don't have to speak much.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as always, I mean, very, very valuable insights from Dr. Steve Lee. Yeah, the Swath study on the burn down that you did there, that's really cool. 40 feet. I don't know if I would promote that, but it's
That,
cool to see that, you
that's
can
crazy.
like you can achieve that. It's just wild.
We can't promote it, but whatever happens in reality happens. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
That's
Does
right.
it make sense? No.
You're not making anything up.
No, you see what I see. And that Mavic 3 multispectral ain't gonna lie, So that's where it's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
All right.
We've got a lot of
Well,
Q and
Steve,
A's, just heads up.
you what?
Got a lot of questions in the queue there.
Yeah, and I don't know how long you have tonight, Steve, but we we might have another half hour questions. So
yeah,
if
we can answer a few questions. I haven't
great.
paid attention to the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
no
know.
problem. And that's kind of how we like to do it is I'll answer these at the end, rapid fire them, and I'm sure it'll spark a lot more discussion too.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of them have
so
also been answered as well as you guys go.
okay, great. Is there anything Ryan on the Q&A or the chat that you think we really need to answer that hasn't been addressed?
Um, some stuff is kind of getting. I'd say one of them from Luke Baker said, most golf courses spray greens, tees, fairways at 50 to 100 gallon per acre. So how would you calibrate for something like a sprayer drone like that? I've actually got that question like that from actually at shows before too.
Yeah,
Guys that
going
are
from
starting to
going
get
from
into
50 gallon or 100 gallon per acre down to a drone.
down
I
your
think that's
drones.
that's kind of what you were talking to, Steve, with like some of the citrus stuff and the thick canopies because they're using a blower and 100 gallon per acre and blowing it through the canopy from the bottom up. Um, which that's a whole, I mean, but when you look at a golf course, they're not using a blower, but they are using high volume. Thoughts, I guess, on that, Steve. I mean, I know what I've seen, and it depends on the crop. And we look at like cranberries. We've got a guy in cranberries who he has completely abandoned all traditional application that has used to be done at 50 gallon per acre. And now he's doing a drone for everything. And he's down to 4, I believe, is what what his label rate on everything he's using. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his IPM guy, his pest management guy says that he's doing a bang up job. So
Um, there's just not testing done in that situation. And if you're spraying golf course, particularly grass, it's like, barely have any blade on it. We're rarely been to a golf course and saw, 10 inches tall grass has never been cut. And now my first thought is, I'm not always correct, but my first thought is, I don't think we need 50 gallons to spray it. Some work need to be done to test the lower volume, and see what it does. Because that's just the instinct response.
let's just lower your volume on your ground rig that you're using. I think that might be
Yeah,
a better thing to try first.
yeah. Because if you want to penetrate the canopy, you can fly slow and just let the wind blow, downdraft blow everything in. But if ground rig use 100 gallon per acre and they want to wash the products in, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because you can still spray the product over the surface and all the golf course has irrigation system. Let them turn on the hose and wash that stuff down. And you get there. So that's why I say the first thing I would test is lower GPA. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. I know one question here that popped up kind of in the beginning is somebody wanting to address anything, your thoughts, I guess, on variable rate application, prescription map implementation. I know you've done some work, Steve, on cotton defoliation. Um, is that have made any progress there? Is that promising?
On cotton, the biggest one is the variable rate PIGS, plant growth regulator. That is a big need from our grower down here in the South because cotton is the one unique crop needs a lot of input. So you have to regulate its growth, because if you don't spray pigs or if you don't spray it correctly, you will have a really beautiful tall summer cover crop with no bolls or very few bolls. So I have some weedy trials in the past. I never sprayed the pigs on it. And eventually that cotton Delta Pan 1646 got to as tall as me. And I put one plant out. It was huge. And I only got 5 bolls out of that plant. So we don't have a lot of bolls. So this is the reason why we do PGR application. So variable rate PGR is a really good one for it. And then variable rate defoliation has its usage too, although the selling point is not as big as the variable rate pigs. I would say the next one that are really picking up interest is the variable rate, or you can say precision spot spraying, the weedy patches. Particularly if we put a T40 battery on T20P, it can fly 3 times longer. It's a really good tool for this type of patch spraying, with Pix 4D and the workflow that we have. So um, I think that one has more potential, if you want to spray, um, say, fence rows or field edges, because where you find most of the weeds in the field, they start from the edges, almost as always. As long as you map the field, you don't get too close to guide wires. So learn my lesson, you'll be all right.
Yeah, solid. Yeah. Yeah, I think spot spraying and has a lot of potential. Pix 4D is a great tool, in my opinion. The magic tool with Pix 4D is the best thing we have thus far for using a drone for spot spraying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll get better though, and it needs to get better, but yeah, it's really good right now.
Yeah, if
Going
the field is
along,
not really big, you just use manual selection, select the grids you want to spray. I mean, I can select the grades to spray. Say if this is a 50-acre field, it probably only take me a few minutes, to select all those spots. It don't take very long, but we hope there's a automation, some sort of AI can do it in the future with more precision.
Yeah, you bet. And yeah, that was a question here. Yeah, asking what mapping drone and software do agronomists prefer? I know, Steve, you're using the Mavic 3 multispectral and Pix 4D, and I would assume you would recommend that to anybody looking to do any kind of crop health and health analysis too.
I think as a starting to this combination is pretty hard to beat because of the price. Because of price. If you have deep pocket, budget's not limitation. Oh, sure, there are way better stuff out there. There are
Yeah,
better platform, better drones. Some of the fixed wing drones can fly, you know, close 800 acres an hour, with their speed, but you're paying a lot more for it at the same time.
yeah, yeah, you bet. What, so I know this is probably maybe this is out maybe outside of some of your research you've done. You're a herbicide guy. We've got fungicide questions in here. Have you done any um, efficacy or yield studies on fungicide application?
So I hate to say this, yes, we have, but the corn fungicide we have all became a wash. So because it was so dry for the last 2 years, particularly last summer, uh, the drought hurt majority of our crop. We have some cotton and peanut fields had not even 1/3 of the normal yield, because of drought. So disease wasn't that big of an issue, but we were able to catch some wet period spraying peanut fungicide. I know peanut is a very localized crop down here, but one thing about peanut, since it's a legume, peanut catches all kinds of disease. If you don't spray fungicide on peanuts, you will have no leaves in a wet summer after about a month. So corn fungicide, most people spray once. Some of the dry land corn don't even get any, you know. Maybe high yielding cornfield, irrigated field gets 2 shots. Some 2 shots program are becoming more prevalent. For peanut, we spray every 14 days for 6 to 7 shots. That's how crazy things get down here in the South. We sprayed fungicide for 2 years in a row on Pinot. Last summer was so dry, so it's not very applicable. But the 2022 summer, particularly the second half, was getting wet, particularly at the end. So at the end, we did have disease pressure back then. I compare T30. I only had a T30 back then. Compare T30 to GPA versus ground rig at 15. It was pretty similar. It was a pretty similar at the end. On my side of Pinot, I had a 10-acre block. My side of Pinot still got about the same amount of leaves compared to the other one, at the digging. Um, Disease, I mean, you can find disease on both sides, drone side and the ground rig side, but it was comparable. I did this on 2 separate farms. Both farmers said, yeah, we couldn't tell much difference when we dig the Pinot.
Yeah, yeah, you bet. That's kind of what I've seen too. Seems like, there's all sorts of studies out there. I know you've
Oh,
seen
I
some
know.
stuff I've sent you that you've scrutinized quite a bit. And so yeah, it definitely pay attention to who's doing the study and what practices they're using. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I'll just say one thing, don't trust whatever you see on the internet. Particularly in that case, it's a dry year and there's not much disease or not at all in that field. You spray fungicide. I mean, how can you get a yield increase? You're not spraying a nutrient, you're not spraying a growth regulator or whatever. If there's no disease, at the best, you're gonna have the same yield. Sometimes, we all know this year arrest symptom. Sometimes those active ingredients or some of the component in the pesticide can even hurt the crop. So sometimes it
Now,
causes
you
damage.
guys on the call have to understand that Steve is a herbicide guy, so he is required by law to say what he just said. He doesn't care about fungicides. He only cares about killing weeds, right, Steve?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I have most interest in. And also that's the hardest one to spray because either it's gonna drift or you can create a green streaks.
I agree. I'm just joking with you, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
herbicide job, if you do it well, you can find a lot of specialty herbicide job in middle of nowhere with very thick profit margin, 50, $60 per acre or even more. You just have
send
to
those
look.
our way, would you? My
Huh?
goodness.
Oh yeah.
I'll make a special travel
It's getting
just to those
momentum in
guys.
forestry and vegetation management.
Yeah. Steve, I have a question on here about STI, sterile insect techniques in the agriculture industry.
Well,
Um, from Asa on the Q&A, um, if asking if Auburn's done anything with sterile insect techniques, and I think what he's referring to basically is uh,
oh, sterile
yeah,
insects.
sterilizing insects where they can't breed or when they do, like, the population just declines. Yeah,
Well,
spreading insects out there like that. Yeah.
that sounds pretty good, but I don't know anything about it. Maybe somebody working on it, I just don't pay a lot of attention to it. But I
Yeah.
do know a similar concept. You're talking about sterilized insects. This sterilization concept is not anything new. There has been multiple attempts in the past to control the pest by creating offsprings that cannot reproduce. So it's not new. Basically, that's how we get seedless watermelon. So some genius adopt this same concept because we have a lot of pigweed or water hemp. Water hemp pigweed in the same species, Amaranthus genus. So it's a dioecious, which means it has female and male plants. So the genius figure out that what if we harvest the pollens from the male plants, sterilize them with gamma irradiation or some sort of chemicals, so the pollens have destroyed a chromosome, or crooked chromosome. And then it's still going to get to the female seed head, produce a seed, but that seed is not viable. It's sterile. It does work in the field. And then some genius figure out how to do this in the field by spreading this treated pollen to control the herbicide resistant pigweed to reduce that population. Slow process, but still works. And then the next step is another genius need to figure out how to spread the pollen because use rate is really low. I forgot the number. It's like not even a pound per acre. It's like maybe so many grams per acre or something like that. So the challenge is spreading it. You have to spread it every 2 weeks or something like that. I think drone will be a perfect platform for it. I tried to talk to Bayer about it, Bayer marketing folks, market development, but they don't have budget for stuff like this. But I'm sure somebody's gonna go after this idea, utilizing drones to pollinate the pigweed, creating the sterile seeds, because they're already using drones to pollinate fruit trees in California. That's nothing new.
Yeah, that's right.
The same concept.
Yeah, like you said, the possibilities are endless.
Oh yeah, new usage. Sorry, it's not about sterilize the insects.
Well, again, you're the weed scientist. You're required to kill weeds, not bugs.
If we
Uh,
end up a few bucks with weeds, that would claim that's a victory.
yeah, there you go. We'll do a few more here, Steve. Um, so Todd's asking, I think everybody, loves the research you're doing, and Todd's asking how, he is a custom applicator or other custom applicators, people running these drones,
Hmm.
if they can do anything to, help accelerate some of your research, or crowdsource some of this stuff. Any thoughts there?
So he want to participate in research? Is that
Yeah.
what he's saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's asking how can custom applicators help you gather data to
That's
accelerate
a
research?
great question, Todd. This is why I travel to multiple research conference, try to promote awareness. And the one thing I said to those university folks or ARS or wherever agency they work for, one key point I said in those presentations to those guys was you don't have to be the one buy the drone, manage the drone, go through all the FAA certification, and deal with it. And then the depreciation is also pretty significant over the years. Many of my counterparts don't want to buy the drone, but they want to do the research. Then that brings out you guys, the custom applications. Go talk to your land grants, land grant university. There will be some, young, ambitious new faculty assistant professor need to fight for tenure, and then offer them, say, hey, as long as you talk to Steve, and then he'll come up with a plan or help you come up with a plan, and then you guys can do it in whichever state you live in, and then you can go to their research station or wherever close by university or wherever works to spray the treatments. University folks always like to ask for free things. In this case, if you tell them, well, I'm willing to donate a day of time, just donate your time to help you spray the treatments. You guys will provide the chemicals and come back and rate those plots, fly the multispectral, do whatever. And then we can call it a collaboration, come up with a report at the end of summer. Well, I think that's a win, better than nothing. Because if the custom applicator doesn't help those researchers, very, very few of them can afford or can live with the issues and headaches of having a drone, a spray drone themselves. We have regulations we have to go through as well.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing here in Missouri, Steve, and
yeah.
working with University of Missouri here. And yeah,
Mhm.
Kevin here is
Yeah,
he's really excited about doing a lot of stuff. Yeah, this next
that's
year.
good.
Yeah,
We need to recruit more research folks to jump on it. And I think for a majority of them, hiring a contractor or teaming up with a custom applicator would be the way to go.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've got several other questions on here, but I do want to keep everything related to what Steve can answer. So if you guys have questions on here that we're not getting to, please email us, info@spraydrones.com, and we'll get you to somebody who can answer these more in their wheelhouse. Ryan, anything you think that what we need to answer tonight?
I think so. This one, it's about multispectral imagery, and the first part of it, I think Steve might be able to talk about. The second part, we've pretty much already said is not in his wheelhouse in a sense. It's from anonymous entity, but it is what can the DJI multispectral do exactly? And then the last part of it is can it identify pests and pest damage?